Top of morning, ladies. My name is Chaz, and welcome to the first actual episode of What If Deku had a between universe part one or part two. Usually, I make these into like little short ones, so I've noticed them with the other ones. So let's start off with. Oh, I'm also bringing in Zumi as his little sister. So, and so this is kind of a little bit of a dark, but not too dark. Just, it's just like, okay? So, everyone's fears of you only have 1 week to live thing. And so, everyone, so, let's start with Inko. As her face says, yay, me first, me first. As in this universe thing, she worked on a project called Flash Between Dimension. So they're trying to work on a way to, actually to go into the like that between dimension. I was gonna call it pause dimension, but then I was like, nah, between dimension would be cooler. So in this pause dimension, I'll just they had several attempts to do it, but none of them came back alive. They all died. Some of them had heart attacks. Their quirks got ripped out of them or something. So the project, once it first activated, it leaked out the poster to, of course, and it affected Inko. Well, little did she know that, that little thing that in that alien movie where a guy, spoilers, where the guy jumps into the some weird goo and he's just fine coming out, but and when he had a kid, the kid didn't had any humans thing. So now it's just basically the same thing, but Inko didn't know that the goo or it was leaking then. So once she got home to Asashi, I'm trying to figure it out. I'll just use him. So Asashi, this is supposed to be like Nezu, but or actually this is supposed to be Nezu, and with instead of having Zuku's skin color thing. So Asashi and her had a kid called Zuko Midoriya. But he was infused with that pause dimension. So, aka, he's immune to it. He could go into there and coming right back out with no problems, kind of. So basically, after he hits age of 4, then his power really truly showed. And so where is it? I wish I got to add stupid doctor. Where is he? Give me a moment. Oh, here it is. So the doctor says, after looking at him, says, "Sorry, kid, you don't have a..." Or actually, he was just like messing around with him. So he says, "Don't worry, you have a quirk." Or, mine, it's unknown quirk to me. Okay? But it's nothing that I ever seen before. As Inko, let's go back into here. Inko was happy about that. Like her son has the unknown quirk. But the doctor says he actually says there's good news and then there's bad news. Good news is that your son has a quirk. Bad news is he only has 4 hours to live. As Inko, or actually, she wanted to hear bad news first. So she got a bad news of her son has 4 hours alive thing. When I say this is dark, I don't mean like constantly stabbing at him, kind, or chop his head off, kind. But so then the 4 hours have times up, and then he got teleported to that pause dimension. Like he looked around and he sees everyone, but they're not moving. Like, hello? And he sees buildings after buildings. Like, his quirk thing was speed thing. So, and regeneration. It's a mystery quirk. So, then Inko, and the side effect of that thing, or not side effect, but more of it actually transferred into into Zuko, actually chose Zuko. So Inko was unharmed and now out of the infected. Right out. Like, then she had another kid called Zumi. So Zumi had her mother's fire quirk, or no, her father's quirk, her mother's telekinesis. Yes. So and she's has the same intelligent level as her brother. Basically, both of them are super smart. But Inko kept the secret of her son away from her, so she doesn't even know who her brother is, if she has a brother. So then in that pause dimension thing, he went to this abandoned factory or weapons thing, and he grabbed some armor or like made some gear. See, I drew it, so it kind of looked like those brainless ones, or from Dormammu, who's like when Doctor Strange fights those. But don't worry, it's his helmet. So or actually Zuko, when he first arrived, he says, "Am I dead?" or something, as he looks around and sees his parents, and he also saw his sister. So it's like we don't talk about pyro. So the so Zumi was always like, okay, fun. So when they both hit 15, or Zuku's at 16 after, and Zumi was at 15. So he was done like using, or he was finished building it and designed it and all that stuff. And he went right as he ran so fast. That's that, like, he caught all the bad guys in one fell swoop. And so he at first was like, this is weird. And then when he teleported back, or like he used that suit to get back to him, is so he was like right in front of Zuko or Midoriya's house thing, and he knocked on the door. Or actually, scratch that. Sorry. So he didn't get one for all, but Zumi did, from All Might. And she went to class 1A, or like UA, but as her brother was there too. So she notices that something's up with him. She could not put her finger on it. So Zuko was like, as the so they passed the written exam, robot exam. So now they are, as he used his own device, his support item, he goes invisible and grabs not Inko. Like, he grabbed Ochako and his sister because he had more points than anyone. Like, he moved so fast. He was faster than even Idi or Tinya. I can't even say his full name. Ida Tinya. Okay? So, the plus Ochako, I'll just use this. This is not totally accurate, but she had brown hair instead of what her that costume looks like. So she says, "Thank you." Yeah, thanks. And so no one actually knew it was like his power. So this is his suit. He still has, or his arms doesn't have the robot. It's just his outfit. Like, you see, he still has that skin thing. So, Inko who looked at, or actually, Zuko looked at his sister and says, "Do you need to," or because it was after the exam, as he says, "Do you want me to drop you off? I can do that real quick." Okay. As he turned it on, and then he went invisible, grabs her, runs her to the to her apartment and sit her down. And so he says, "See ya, school tomorrow," as he jets off, turning invisible, or not, or he's not really turning invisible. He's in the between dimension. It doesn't. So he ran so fast. He went to sleep. And when he got up, it was day. So it was a morning. So, or like right in the middle of the night. So he goes, runs back to school, and like he got class 1A. And because he got that letter thing. And so he as the class, even way before all the classmates even showed up. Like heck, the he phases right through All Might in his buff down form. Like he was not even there. That's how crazy it is. And so so they the they were like, okay, how in the heck did you come from? Because so Zumi had this weird and logically thing, like she knows him from somewhere. So she ends up asking him, "What's your name, mister?" Or, oh, he says, like, "My name is Mr. Z." Or call me Deku. More accurate term. I like to be called Deku. Okay, Deku. It look familiar to me some way. Well, I'm not. Hey? And how is your mother and your father doing, by the way? They're good. And how do you know them? Well, I have this quirk allows me, or I have multiple quirks. One allows me, or I had to wear this wristband, and 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 he's used to it. Then so, no wonder why you don't take your suit off. Think about how the think of me as 13, but as when someone or when Ochako heard, or when the entire class heard him like talking to about 13. Think about me as 13. They were like looking at him like, huh. As he says, her power is black hole. Allows us, or one of her fingers could like do that stuff. Yeah, that's one of the classmates. But mine is different. My power comes from this pause dimension. And sorry, what is your name? As he looked at Zumi and says, "My name is Zumi." Or her name is Zumi, so she says that, and ah, well, your cousin, he's just using it because he knows that he is her brother anyway. So he says your brother's or your not your brother, your cousin is in that shell universe with me, or with, or okay. So my cousin, okay, as they know that he's not lying. And he says, my quirk, if all of you want to know, he was already quiet one. And those things that are on his, like, connected to his helmet, is actually earphones, things. Or I was gonna call them oxygen tubes, but then I was like, nah. Headphones. So he the like ball throw. He threw the ball. It landed on the moon. Like through the moon. And wow, that's interesting. And she says that he and everybody's like, whoa, that's cool. Huh. As he like, my power should have been a lot further than that. When that was only small, like tiny, just one. As Mr. Ozawa, or he looked at Mr. Ozawa, and Mr. Ozawa says, or it read, it was supernatural one. So I'm skipping the quirk assessment test because Zuko did that, or called him Deku. So then, there's J one. He, or one of the class 1A students, plays what, or like gets better known their quirks, was Suyu, or TSUYU, the frog girl. So she ends up getting. She looked at Zuko, or she asked everybody else's, but then when Zuko's, and he says this, well, or actually, she says, Deku, what is your quirk? And he says, well, my quirk is actually called the pause dimension. As Mr. Ozawa knows what the pause dimension does, because he was there witnessing all the failed experiments. So he decides, after they got off the bus, he decides to go up to him and asks him or to come with him real quick before. Don't start without us. So they went in, and so he says, "How did you know about this pause dimension thing? It's been shut down for quite a long time." As he says, "I really don't know. Oh, but I just heard it from a couple of people that it was a failed experiment." As Mr. Aizawa says yes, as we lost so many good people, or we lost 5 people and 2 dogs to it, and 1 cat. And so then 13 and they were like, okay. So they walked back and they went in to get ambushed. But lucky for Zuko or Deku, he says, "I'll be right back," as he activates his thing. Because it's keeping him, it's like a time anchor. It's like to putting him in and then putting him back, laying at will. So he goes and punches all the bad guys and kicks the Nomu and punches his brain out. And he also kicked Shiraki-sen right in the side, like the Gallon of Truth did to that Lay guy with the Iron Mask one. So then after that he went back and they're like surprised that that Deku could handle multiple people at the same time. As he says that pause dimension doesn't or it allows me to go in and do whatever I want and come right back out because of this device, as he on my arm. So then the villains gets knocked out, and all the students saw Zuko become that. And so he was pretty powerful. So after USJ, when every time that they try to because with his power, he could easily zip right through the entire security system with no sweat. Like he just could walk through the lasers even, and if he wanted to, he still couldn't get caught. So then they're like, okay, now, and during that heroes versus villains thing, I was skipped it because it was Todoroki against Zuko was or against Deku, and he or they were like, okay, where the heck are you? Where the heck are you? And he moves fast, like he even whacked him so hard, like with like punches and kicks that not even the speed guy could even do it. Like, heck, when at USJ, Shiraki-sen is like, what the heck? Or, but at the villains after USJ, we lost too. Dumb. But how? Our plans were perfectly. Then something went wrong. As All For One knows it's because what he heard from the doctor was that he tells Shiraki-sen that the student actor, his name is Deku. But you might commonly know him as Zuko Midoriya. As Shiraki-sen says, what do you mean? As All For One says, I mean that let me tell you a story of how the one plan failed, but created the hero instead. As All For One says that, and once there was this, you heard about the lab accident, don't you, Shiraki-sen? As he says, no, please go on. As he says, well, the humans, or the ones with quirks, or scientists, try to experiment with to get to this so-called pause dimension. But the mission, but their experiment failed, and they lost so many good people, or like 5 people, and so then he says that, but in the process, it was leaking the portal was leaking through, and so now it's transformed Zuku, or one of the kids, into the most powerfulest teleporter guy into. So now let me explain more. We don't even know what it does, but his quirk does know how powerful he really gets when he, as the doctor, went in and said, yes. I'll just use this one, so instead of going back and forth. So, yes. The quirk that he has was mystery. It's unknown to all of us. But there's one thing. When I said so Shraki-san says, I don't want to be rude, but can I ask this question? As Shiraki-san, I'll just use this one. The doctor says, sure. As what does the what do you mean by the quirk that he has, the mystery quirk? It's unknown to us, says the doctor. I think we have one explanation of why everyone failed, but created a hero. Why would that be, Doctor? This is one. So he says, this is what it means. It means that we're looking at the person that could go between our world and a pause dimension. And we have a really good chance now. So if we find him, we can capture him and turn him, or lead us to that world. Yes. As Shraki-san's whoa, okay. Because he only heard it from his parents, that his parents told him that every dude don't go to the pause dimension, it will kill you. Or he was there, saw that incident before. So then he's like, can't believe someone actually made a hero. So the Inko, or actually Zumi, went and asked Inko last night about, or actually when she saw Zuku's, or when she saw him, And Inko asked Zumi, who is he? Or who is he? Oh, him? He's Deku. Or, I. His, like, his birth name is Mr. Z. As the last night they had a conversation, like, between her and. Or actually, she asked, is it time? As Horikoshi, or her husband, says yes. It's time to tell her her brother is. As so she goes and tells her that your brother, it's time to let you know. Your brother, my brother, where is he? You haven't told me about him. Well, we kept it away from you so that you don't wanted to know what really happened that day. Please tell me, please. As, well, after we went to the doctors, he only had 4 days to live, or 4 hours to live, by something infecting him. Basically, as so one day, or so she went to work thing. Her boss asked her to go to security room, like, not, you're not in trouble, just look at the security cameras and see during that day, as she remembers what day it was. So she went to it, and what she saw was a leakage from the portal and went into her. Basically, she didn't even know it. Like, she even, when her face was like, huh, as so she asked her boss that if there, we lost some, or so she says, we lost so many good people, but why he, as her boss said that, then we didn't even know it had a leakage. So, and this was her boss. She looked like Bakugo's mom, but she says, well, I'll just use it. So she ends up, like, didn't fire her. She says that there's a good possibility of, if we fix it, then we will stop whatever it is that's causing it. So, but at the same time, her son was there. Didn't cause a leak or nothing. So he goes up and sees the problem. There's a crack in the in. So he like, as he, like, wrote it down on a piece of paper and gave it to Inko, and she says, hey boss, as she says, what? Is it the crack in the side of the tanks things of the over here? As, gosh, you're right. As she didn't know it was Zuko actually did that. So then, moving on. But at the sports festival thing, as Deku, or she, like, asked him. She had to finally had a nerve to ask, "Hey Deku, what is your name?" Or when you said Mr. Z, does that mean Zuko? Yes. Or actually, scratch that. She didn't not ask him that. So after I'm skipping the sports festival because his thing. So he goes like full on sprint across a like all the way to a finish line in 1 second. And then he did that and then ends up she ends up like, so he got first place, Todoroki got second, Bakugo got third, and then so the internships them were actually during him against Todoroki, he says, well, as he goes fight, as he turns invisible, boom, 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 boom. As he, even at his halfway mark thing, he was actually invisible, but they could still hear him. It was at half. When it's on, he can become like, he gets to that like pause dimension fully. So he went and he turned invisible and he was laughing like, ha 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 ha. You can't. And there's one thing that between you and I, we don't really have too much sympathy for ourselves, doubting our abilities. As he beat the crud out of all, or not all, Todoroki and Bakugo with that same technique. Then he turns back, boom. So then he has tested it. So then they were like, okay, now so Zuko, who went under internship with actually the girl from, or in that one scene where Endeavor saved her life from the Nomu, because the Nomu was gonna kill her by just with, it's that girl, the one that's in. Okay, so then sorry. So then so Inko was at work and she figured it out why it's not working because of that. And she told her boss that I think I created the hero. As her boss looks at her and says, "What do you mean?" As she says, "Did you ever think about it? Like you could create. Some people are born with quirks. Some are just forged from quirks. I think I forged the quirks without even realizing it." As she looks at the security cameras and she notices that the gunk thing, like the portal goo thing, or whatever that's called, went in and chose her. And she created. So she says, "Gosh dang right. Where is he now?" He's at the sports festival. Or where, of course, she had so much respect for her that she was always honest one. So then at the sports festival, he Inko says, "I know you're here," as it was him. So he says, "What's up?" As she says, "Well, remember that, or remember that 4 hours thing?" As said, "Yes, the one that the doctor lied about." As he did? Yeah, I was at the villain's base earlier. And no, I'm not a villain. It's what it is. And so, how did it feel to be in there, by the way? Well, as he says, to be honest with you, I saw, like, all of you paused. Like, he, like, asked him, or she gave him, or gave her the explain of that, that dimension thing. You really don't want to go there. As he tells her that the only way to And she says, why? Plus her boss was there too. Like, why? As he says, well, it's boring. Because this thing, as he raises his arm, this device is keeping me here from being going all sane thing. I don't want that. As Inko knows how Zuko is feeling. Like, she doesn't want her son to be like in any more stress. Because as he explains to them that the only reason why this is keeping me here is because I don't want to go to there where everyone's on, like, you can't even talk to them, or you can't even talk to other people without having a time anchor thing. You can't even lift up stuff. It's as he's banging his head on a wooden table. As her boss and her, like, her boss and her says, don't worry, Zuko. We will find a way to permanently put you back into this world. As she said, yeah, huh? That's all we needed. We just need you to take note in that world, okay? Just take note. Don't worry. As he says, okay. So then they enter internships. Then the camp arc. He grabbed Zuko. As so Zuko, or everybody is like, okay, it's in. As his hand, or both of their arms, so he activated his, like, actually he snapped his fingers and he went right through the entire, because he wasn't, when he was in the pause dimension, or he switches from pause dimension to reality. Like, a pause dimension is like a phantom. Like, there's nothing. Like, the handcuffs that he had was even off. So he, like, beats a crowd out of, like, League of Villains and ends up being, and that brown thing that's on his back, like his backpack, is actually feeding into him. And so then, all for one, the fight thing against All Might. All Might lost, and All for One was gonna, like, activate his, or actually was gonna kill him. Goodbye, enemy. As he turns his thing on, he went and grabbed All Might, saved his life, and basically he says enough. As All for One looks at him and says, "Ah, Zuko, how's that between dimension is working out for you? It seems like you're not dead by my eyes." As he said, as as he takes off his helmet and reveals who he is. As everyone sees it, it was Zuko. And Bakugo finally remembers who he was. A childhood friend. Todoroki always is respected him. Or actually, Bakugo respects him so much since they were kids. But then that happens. He says, yeah, but now you're gonna face the truth, wrath of mine. As he activates his going invisible thing, as all for one, like getting punched, getting kicked, all that stuff. And so, or actually, when they were like talking, like, how is the between dimension working out for you? You're still living. I'm surprised that you're the lucky one that we all chose. And so, as they know that, or so he says, how did you know about that portal thing that that my mother's created? As All for One says, I was there before her. As so then, so he, everyone like looked at him. His own mother says, is that my son's lucky to be live thing? As Bakugo, he says, you're one lucky son of a gun, aren't you, Zuko? As he looks at him like, yeah, and that world is not like paradise. I would rather live in this normal world than living in that parallel universe. Heck, man. Rest of you are still moving and still talking to me. That's a good thing. As they start battling and out, and Zuko won. Basically, with a hands down boom. So all of them are like, okay, sorry. Okay, so Shiraki-san, Kirigiri, and all of them, and don't worry about Musclear. Musclear got, like, basically got pretty hammered at a bar. Huh? And like, it was So he doesn't even remember. So he starts, or so Coda was like, huh. As he says, well, because they were not creeped out by, or when Coda saw that on the news, like that masked man was Zuko. Coda remembered his parents tell him that at the story of a kid that had only 4 hours to live and died after that. So, but they did not know, or actually, his parents still lived. He's still happy, and so she always tells her brother that, come on, brother, let's go home. Yeah, sister, just you just want to be, come on, silly. As she always like tries to, heck, she even like asks him politely. So after awful one, and I'm skipping the like quirk exam area thing where they throw a ball thing because Zuko's team or Zuko's class passed everyone, and then it was finally time. So Inko and her boss, us, asked Zuko to go into the portal thing. So he goes through the portal and ends up getting cured, or not like fully cured, or his quirk and portal thing, the between dimension, has fused together to become much more. So he still has the yeah, but he has more control of himself. So then let's go home. So they went home. It was his superhero costume. So he like washed the or all of the everything else except for that. So then his sister literally runs up to her brother and gave him a hug, like, good to have you back. And Bakugo's like, huh. As Inko had, or was she was crying because her son has now finally returned to her room. Heck, Bakugo, who was like, good to have you back, like friend or best friend. As heck, All Might heard about that incident thing and created a hero. No. So All Might tells Zuko that you got forged in, and aren't you? As he says, yeah, yeah, but it's good to see your movements, by the way, all of you, because living in that or in that pause dimension, when just imagine, or here, where he actually had a camera in his backpack the entire time. So he pulls it out, pulls a recorder thing, like his, when it looked like from his point of view, but it didn't, and they all like sat down and watched it, all Class 1A and 1B, because Class 1B heard about Zuko has returned. And actually, one of his friends, or his, like, that he knew, was actually him in the back. So he's happy for it. Or all of them. So when they saw, like, her boss's, like, or Inko's boss's, like, her boss, saw, like, what it looked like from his point of view. And as he says, please don't make me go back to there ever again. It's just that, as his own mother says, don't worry, we won't let you get into that world. Her boss steps in and says, yeah, after seeing that, it must have been terrifying for you. As he says, yeah, it was. And you don't even know the days or weeks have passed in it. Well, the least that Member Brothers has returned back to us. I'm so happy. As she knew that so he still had, or like his mystery quirk and that fused into one after he walked through the portal. So now he's like infused with it. So he's now has more control of it. And then Overhaul, like he or Sir Night Eyes asked him, can, or actually he was in his superhero costume before. Okay? Asked him to go, or actually texted him, and they went and so they were like, okay, when we win, we win, we win, we win, we win, we win, we win. So they ended up with such a, like, Overhaul lost. I'm skipping the Overhaul thing because one, Zuko could, or actually accessed his full power. So he went in it and grabbed Ares and walked all the way around and like did all that stuff. Heck, the three trios were pretty powerful. So this is the, so Zuko enjoyed quality time, and he also took care of All for One and Overhaul and the doctor that said that he had 4 days to live. Because let me remind you, where is it? Let me remind you, this doctor was working with All for One. What the heck was that? So he turned the doctor over to the authorities and all that stuff. And don't worry about Toga. She was being in a not support course, but in the not the villains, but more of the she was in class 1C or no 1B with, and she wasn't crazy one. So then Oraka, that orange haired or that brown haired girl, finally asked Zuko to go on a date with him. And Marion had, you guessed it, her. But he had her father's fire and ice and gravity. But she doesn't have her, or she does have her father's is going into the pause dimension universe thing. So both of them are now immortals. They can never age, they can never die thing. Or they want to age, they could say what age. I am 24, as they. So then, but they didn't have a birthday, or Zuko didn't have a birthday because they all thought he was dead, so Inko decides to throw a birthday party for him. So then his friends showed up and all that stuff. So this is the happy ending. At first was, oh, Zuko, you have 4 hours to live. And then that happens. But the good news is you have a quirk. And but Zumi always was like, always worried about him. So she was like, her hero costume matches her personality of her that. So then this is the end of the video, so have fun.